Hi knitters, welcome to episode 113 of the Knitty McPurly podcast. I am your host, Devin AT. You can find me online at KnittyMcPurly.com. I'm Knitty McPurly over on Instagram, and if you want to email me, I am Devin at KnittyMcPurly.com. Thank you so much for joining me here today. This is the last podcast before the very first Knitty McPurly retreat coming up this week. Oh my gosh, it's in, if you don't, today we'll count, today's a half day, so we got Monday, Tuesday. I leave on Wednesday. The retreat officially starts Thursday evening. I'm very excited. I sent out my last, here's all the information you need email to those people who are coming, and they're all really excited, so it's gonna be great. I got some comments like, oh, maybe I can make it next year. I don't think it will be a yearly retreat. Right now, I'm thinking like every 2 years. That feels manageable to me, and I feel like that will be a good amount of, planning time and whatnot. So that's kind of what I'm leaning toward right now. I have a location in mind for the next one, but I need to look into it and see if I can make it happen. So that'd be 2025. Oh my gosh, I'll have a college student that year. Crazy. So anyway, welcome to the podcast. It is crazy cold here today. Just one more thing about the retreat. I checked the weather and it's gonna be great. Doesn't look like any precipitation. It's gonna be cold and sunny/cloudy, which is just perfection. We got people driving and people flying, and no bad weather would be amazing. So, you might be wondering why I am wearing a store-bought sweater. I feel a little bit bad about it, and that's why I bring it up. But the reason is because it's cold and all of my knits are packed. So I thought I'm just gonna go ahead and wear this store-bought sweater. You might be wondering, Devin, why do you even own a store-bought sweater? Why do you even own that? And the reason, I'll tell you, is because I like to buy sweaters to get ideas for fit and style. So this one is really cool. It's a kind of modern fit. It's cropped, and I have on, whoop, there goes that. I have on a pair of high-waisted pants, and then I have a shirt on underneath because, I'm old. But it has kind of a wide fit. I really like the fit in it. The sleeves are really wide, so it has a drop shoulder, and these stripes help you to see that there are decreases here. This does have a slope to it. It's not just a square, although you could knit it just as a square. And then the sleeves are kind of overly long. But this is really cute, isn't it? I could see this turning into a knitting pattern. Let me pick this thing up while I'm thinking about it. That's a Christmas ornament. I just think it's really cute. So that's why I'm wearing a store-bought sweater, and that is why I own store-bought sweaters. I pretty much buy them just so I can see what's in fashion and how it fits, and if I like it, and do I want to knit it. And if all my sweaters happen to be packed, then I have something to wear. So anyway, it's very exciting. Okay, progress and shop news. I think I left my coffee downstairs. That's not going to work at all. Hold on. Much better. So progress and shop news. Like I said before, I have a new color coming out. I haven't photographed it yet because the people at the retreat are going to get to see it first. And the same with my winter balm scent is coming out. I'll tell you about it because it'll be available on the website the week after the retreat. So not this coming week, but the week after that. So the new balm scent is called Bleak Midwinter. And I have some on right now. It smells so good. I wish I could let you smell it. It's a gingerbread, kind of clove, cinnamony ginger smell. It's so good. I love it. But that'll be available at the retreat and then afterwards on my website. So, and then after that, I have a certain amount, and when it's gone, and I will move on to the spring scent, which I already have planned. It's exciting. So many exciting things. I have the best life. It's so much fun. I did not get a ton of time to knit this week, but I did do a little bit. I got a couple inches on this sleeve. So I think this is going to be my retreat project that I bring with me. And I want to talk more. See, now when I hold it up, you have to understand that when I am looking at the sweater, last week we talked about the sweater fix and I got so many good comments on it. And I want to read those. We're going to do topic of the week and comments roundup today together. But when I look at it, I don't see it. But when I hold it up and I look at it in the camera, it glares at me. Things glare in a camera in a way that they don't in real life. So I'm going to be talking about that a little bit in our next segment, which I'm going to introduce right now. Topic of the week and comments roundup. You guys were pretty polarized on the issue of my fix. I think everyone agreed that the duplicate stitch of the yellow is, you can't even tell. I mean, I can't find it. I couldn't tell you which one it was. But there was a difference of opinion on the blue. And like I said, it looks way worse on the screen than it does in person. And maybe it's because there are places where the yellow is peeking through. It's not a perfect blue coverage. So I got a lot of comments on both sides of it. I got comments saying, maybe try this to make it look better. I don't think it really worked the way you wanted it to. And then I got other comments saying, that looks great. So I want to read through some of those because some people had some really good suggestions. Like, just in case you want to make a fix later on something that you have done. So let's go through these. Elaine from the UK had probably the strongest answer. Elaine said, correcting a mistake in a sweater can be difficult. My personal preference is always to undo back to the mistake, however far back it is. I know I would not wear the garment if it had a mistake right in the eye line. And then she goes on to say, Martin Story is a designer of wonderful patterns, some of which are published by Rowan. Yes, I noticed that last time when I was looking at his website. But I think Elaine brings up a really good point. She knows she will not wear something if there is an error in the eye line. And I just thought to myself, how do you feel about a garment that has a mistake that's not under the arm, that's not in the back, but that is somewhere in the front? I thought about this a lot. It was a very thought-provoking comment. And my gut response is to say, it depends on how bad it is. I felt, normally, if I have two rows together, like I love this pattern and I have it in a couple different sweaters, just this one by one. And it always seems to happen that somehow I have an extra stitch or I'm short one or whatever, and I end up with two of the same color next to each other. That happens to me like every single time I do it. And most of the time I don't worry about it and I don't even think about it and I don't even notice it. I think that most of the time, even if it's in the eye line, no one's gonna see it except you. But that said, if it bothers you and you won't wear the thing, you should definitely rip it back. Because why not? Why would you continue working on something that you know you're not gonna wear? So that's why I was thinking, I'll try something like this just to make it so it's not so glaring. And I know a lot of you said, I think it's worse. But let's keep going. Let's keep reading through because some people had some good suggestions. Kath Cat says, Devin, I think your repair is better, but I would consider untwisting your blue yarn and doing the duplicate stitch with only one ply of the yarn. That's a really good idea. I didn't even think of that. A couple people said something along those lines, where if the yarn were thinner, you could get what looks like a little bit of blue in there without it being such a wall of yellow. So that's a good suggestion. I was originally going to go through and organize all of these comments so that I could read them by view, but I just ran out of time. I'm a little pressed for time today, so it's fine. It's going to be great. But anyway, I'm just going to read them as I have them. Jean Ellis says, as to the duplicate stitch fix of blue, would it be possible to only stitch over one leg of the stitches? The fix seems to create an overly blue area, as we see here. I almost want to just somehow cut that extra ladder of yellow out of the fabric. And then she says, scary thought, because of course Jean knows you can't cut it out. Something I thought of, and I discarded this idea, but I thought, I wonder if it would work. I thought, what if, and we're gonna pretend that these are the two yellows because the duplicate stick. Can we do it here? No, it'd be easier to show it here. I thought, what if I could just get a little space in there and just go through with a blue down these bars in between the two rows of stitches, just in that spot. And I ultimately decided not even to try it because there's no space. There's just not enough space in there to do that. But these are all good thoughts. Sheila Huggins had a really interesting suggestion. She said, I do think it's better, but I think you could do a mattress stitch on the outer stitches and close in the intersection. First time I read this, I didn't know what she was saying, but now that I read it right now, what she means is, see, and I can't even find it. There it is. What she means is if I could collapse it so that one of the yellows disappeared. That is genius. Oh my gosh. And now that I just understood what she was saying, I might have to try that. All right, if I try it, I'm gonna put the video in right here. Okay, so here is our before, and this is what we did last week, all right? You can kind of see it. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and pop that out, and I'm going to try, let's see, the amazing suggestion. Where should I start? Maybe here. Is this the last one I did? Yeah. I'm gonna pull this out, and I'm gonna try the amazing suggestion made by Sheila Huggins. Okay, here we are back at square one, and here is our double yellow right here. Now, what Sheila was suggesting is that I mattress stitch this row and that row and just close up the gap on that row, which is just genius. If this works, oh my gosh. Let's give this a try. Okay, can you see that? All right, so what we're gonna do, let's see, I'm gonna start here. For mattress stitch, I'm just gonna go through 2 legs on that side, and then on the other side of it, I'll go through those 2 legs. Whoops, is that 2? Yeah, oh, it looks like I got a float in there too. There, 2 legs on that side. Okay, now 2 legs. Did I already do that one? No, 2 legs on that side. It's hard. See, the difficulty comes in the floats. So try to get the legs and not the floats, I presume. There's 2 legs there. Sorry, I'll try and get it in the middle. On that side, okay. Now 2 legs. On that side. Whoops. Okay. Oh, you guys, I think it's gonna work. 2 legs. Actually, I would call these bars rather than legs, wouldn't you? 2 bars. I just watched the Very Pinks Knits video just to remind me how to do this. And I have always done it 1 bar at a time. But she did 2, so I thought, you know, let's give that a try. 2 seems like it will go faster. 2. All right. Moment of truth. Are you ready? Look at that. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Sheila, I am sending you a skein of yarn. Look at that, you guys. Don't rip back. There's another way. Second time's the charm. Look at that. It's gone. Oh my gosh. Sheila, send me your address. Devin at KnittyMcPurly.com. I'm sending you some yarn because that was the most amazing suggestion ever. Mattress stitch, folks. Mattress stitch. Okay, here are some other comments that I got. A Porter says, I think the duplicate stitch shows too much. You could try embroidering a chain stitch between the two yellow columns to separate them. I don't know how to do that. Embroidering a chain stitch, like with crochet? That's an option. Also, I love the first two designs in your knitting fantasies, but I didn't see any info about them. Oh, I think she's referring to some of the pictures I showed last week in my topic of the week. A lot of those were just Pinterest searches. I just did a Pinterest search on handmade sweaters. So I don't even know if there's necessarily a pattern that goes with those. Okay. Wendy M says, your sweater is beautiful and I love the colors. I can't remember what weight yarn you are using. If it's DK, it is sport weight, Wendy. It's a sport weight. You could duplicate stitch in a fingering weight. So this, Wendy's suggestion is very similar to just use one ply. She's saying use a fingering weight yarn or just a thinner yarn to do the duplicate stitch. But she says she does think that it is less noticeable. Okay, I got another suggestion about crocheting a chain stitch, removing a ply. A lot of these comments, you guys really were thinking about this. I really appreciate that because when you get a lot of minds together, different people think of different things. Oh, this comment was amazing. One I cannot relate to at all, but a good comment. A Sparkle, who we're going to talk about in a minute, she has sent in this week's story. She says, I liked your segment on correcting mistakes. I don't want to sound braggy, but I rarely make mistakes. That is something I absolutely cannot relate to. I think it would be amazing if I didn't make mistakes, but I make a lot of them. She says, until last week, I cast on the faux set. I must have skipped over that reading the instructions part. I went right to the chart and was 18 rows in before I noticed stranded in the margin. I was doing stranded the entire time. So in the faux set pattern, part of the color work is mosaic color work. So mosaic color work is just a little bit easier to do than stranded color work. If you did it stranded, you would never be able to tell the difference. It's just a difference in how you're working it. But that pattern does have both mosaic and stranded in it, and she knit them all stranded, which is fine. She said, I was doing stranded the entire time. Since I had completed the row of bobbles, which I love, but they take forever, I decided I will live with my modified version of your amazing pattern. Thank you so much, Amy. Then I missed the change from knit front and back increases to yarn over increases. Oh well, it still looks lovely. Hopefully that's the end of my errors. None of those errors are make or break. I wouldn't even consider ripping back for something like that, especially because it's gonna look amazing either way. Barbara says, I think the duplicate stitch in blue is more noticeable than just leaving it yellow. That's my humble opinion, but it's your sweater and you have to do what you think is best. Jackie Walsh says, love the repair. I also hate to frog and I would just call it a design choice. Sue Garavet says, hey Devin, I definitely think it looks better, but maybe try going over just one side of the V. Yeah, lots of comments like this. Julie Hertel says, I love your new design and the bishop sleeves. I think I will knit a corrugated rib cuff to tie in the color work without doing a stranded design on just the sleeves. Maybe I will too. I didn't do that here. But I will still, oh, did I have this done last time? Did I have this sleeve? I don't remember. I think I did. But you can see the bishop sleeve where it's poofy and then it just goes down into the cuff. But I love that idea. If you're not familiar, a corrugated rib is just ribbing in two colors. So it's a stranded knitting, but you're just knitting like your knits in the blue and purls in the yellow or vice versa. That would look really cool. I actually love that idea. I'm not committed to it, but maybe I'll tear that out, because I wouldn't mind just tearing out a cuff and then redoing it in corrugated ribbon, because that'd be a big difference. Okay, all right. Oh, Sue Cook. I talked about Martin Story last week being a legend, and I just assumed that meant he was dead. I don't know why. It doesn't have to mean that, but Sue Cook says, legend means someone who is amazing here in the UK, but you did make me laugh saying that he's alive. Love your podcast as always. It means that here too, but I don't know. I guess I just assumed. You know what they say about assuming. Okay. Darlene Smith says, your sweater is beautiful. The duplicate stitch is perfect. I will keep that in mind for the future. Claudia Kano said, I love how you fix the mistakes on your sweater. About duplicate stitch, I learned somewhere that you should split the yarn if possible and just use 1 or 2 strands. That makes it less noticeable. Awesome. Nadine said the fix on your sweater was awesome. Tara T says, I love the new color. Oh, the Bosque that I held up last time. I would have brought that up as well as my new balms, except like I said, they are all packed. But Bosque, I mentioned it and showed it in the last podcast. It's like a greenish, yellowish, brownish. It's amazing. Tara says, it is one of my colors because I am a redhead and I struggled with color when I was younger. The 80s and 90s were hard when I looked awful in all the popular colors and I wanted to wear what was popular. Now that I'm grown up and figured some things out, I don't care what colors are in style. I always wear what is flattering to me, which are earth and jewel tones. Those are all my colors too. I love those colors, regardless if they are in style or not. So save a sweater quantity of Bosque for me and maybe some Black Forest cake as well. Awesome, Tara, for sure. And you can always pre-order it. Anybody who wants to pre-order a sweater quantity, you can always do that on my website. I accidentally cut off the name, but I'm pretty sure it was Ruth Ann Bull who left this comment. She said, I think it's better after the fix, and that was so interesting to watch. I meant, no, this wasn't Ruth Ann. This was someone else. Gosh, I'm sorry I cut your name off because this was such a good comment. She said, I am in awe of your knitting. I've been knitting my whole life and could never do what you do. I don't know what that means. What does that mean? I could never do what you do. I remember before I was a knitter, I was an artist. And I remember my mom saying to me, because she's an artist too, that I was fearless. And maybe that's what you mean. That although I didn't rip back, I feel like if I were really fearless, I would have ripped back. But just willing to kind of try stuff and see what happens, especially with something like this. This is easy because you can always tear it out, which I think I'm going to do. I'm going to film that little thing that maybe I've already showed you of closing it up. Gosh, what a great idea that was. So smart. The Selfish Knitter says, happy to hear you have some tech editor options. Let me just tell you, I'm just going to tell you very briefly about what happened with my tech editor situation. So, a couple weeks ago, I mentioned that all my tech editors disappeared at the same moment and I needed a new one. And I got both, amateurs, newbies, people who thought I could be a tech editor. I got that kind of person to respond. And I also got some professional recommendations. But there was one person who responded first. She was just the first response I got. She was someone who said, I think I could be a tech editor. I think I can do this. And I said, okay, would you like to take a look at this pattern for me? And I'm thinking to myself, you don't know. The gamut of people's abilities and work ethic and willingness and whatever, it runs the gamut, right? I don't know what I'm going to get back. And so I sent her the pattern. And her editing of this pattern, this is a new person. She's not a professional tech editor yet, though I think she's going to be, because her editing of this pattern was not only every bit as good as a professional tech editor, but I feel like it was better. And one thing I said to her in an email is a motivated newbie is better than a bored professional any day of the week. And I think that probably applies across the board. If you are smart and willing and hardworking, you can do anything that you want to do. And this woman absolutely proved it. And so I am really looking forward to what I hope will be a long-term tech editor relationship with her. She is great. So after that, I got more people saying, oh, I could do it, or I would love to help you. And so I've cataloged all those people. I have a spreadsheet with everyone's information. But I just wanted to say how amazing that was. And, if you are interested in doing something and you think you might be good at it, it's just a lesson in just jump out there and try it, because maybe you are amazing and you just need somebody to go, wow, I didn't know you could do that. Like, that was amazing. So anyway, yes, my tech editor situation is completely fixed and great. Here's Ruth Ann's comment. Ruth Ann Bowles says, what a happy podcast. Love how you fixed the sweater. 10 minutes and finished. Good for you. That's kind of how I feel about things too, Ruth Ann. That made me feel real good about it. Though I do like trying things, and I think there were so many good suggestions. I think that with the suggestions that people have compiled over fixing a mistake like this that's that far back, and honestly, I knew it was there when I knit it. I mean, I knit those two together knowing they were there, and I just didn't think it would be so glaring, but because it was yellow, that's why it stuck out. So it was just, the further I just kept going and going, and I'd look back on it and go, I don't know, I think I want to fix that. Alexis Briggs said, Devin, loved the podcast, and the Bosque colored yarn is gorgeous. Wish I had known of your podcast sooner so that I could attend your retreat. Hope it is fun for everyone, and maybe next year I can come. So right now, barring any unforeseen circumstances, I'm thinking probably 2025, we'll do another one. New location, just to spread it out a little bit. Michelle Marie 885 says, wonderful podcast. I love each and every one. You got many interesting suggestions for your sweater. Looking forward to hearing what you decide. A few years ago, I knitted 7 Christmas stockings for my family, hoping to need to add more as my kids marry off and start their families. And I used duplicate stitch for the names. It was fun and brought me back to my cross stitch / embroidery days. Oh, and your hair looks cute. Love the curly part on the side. It's finally long enough that I can get a curling iron in there. Michelle brings up a good point that you can use duplicate stitch, not just to fix mistakes, but you can use them, like I said before, in place of intarsia. Like if you want to put a name on a stocking, you can do that. Although if I were going to do it again, I think I would probably do what you guys suggested and use a thinner yarn. So, okay, this is a little bit misplaced, but I wanted to show you this because it's been hanging around and it's so beautiful. Let's see, it's been about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago. I think it was maybe right after Thanksgiving. I received my advent calendar from Mystery Mouse Yarn. That's Holly Armstrong. Hi, Holly. And I went through and I showed you how beautifully packaged it was, but now I have the yarn. And because I am me and I'm doing a lot of things, I did not have a chance to knit the amazing pattern that accompanied this advent calendar, but I did want to show you the yarn because it is so great. I found this. I'm pretty sure this one is from Holly. It's a little stubby one, and I had a pile of yarn on my counter here, and I'm pretty sure that this went with it. But I'm just gonna kind of go through and show you these beautiful colors that came in her advent calendar. Now these are 20-gram minis, so there are fewer of them because she had a really good price point on hers too. And each of these had like an inspiration. It was Sherlock Holmes. I'm gonna have to use my other hand here. It was Sherlock Holmes based, and each of these had an inspiration, but they just look so cute together. And then on Christmas Day, there was this full skein. Aren't those so pretty? I don't know what to make with them. I mean, I could make the pattern that she sent, but I might make something else. I don't know. I just love it, and I just wanted to show it to you. So that's a random thing in the midst of the rest of it. Moving right along to what comes next? Knitting Fantasies. Again, I've been a little pressed for time, so I did not go into too much detail for Knitting Fantasies, but I've been wearing so many of my knitted sweaters lately that I have been neglecting my cowls. And as I was packing up the stuff I want to bring on my retreat, I packed up my camel cowl and my Williamsburg cowl, which are two of my favorite knitting patterns. So the camel cowl is an Aran weight. I think it takes 2 skeins, if I remember correctly. It might take 1, but I feel like it takes 2. And it's just a really basic cowl. And in these pictures, this was back when my hair was super short. It was just growing in. And I just love this cowl, but I haven't worn it in a while. And I thought, gosh, I need to wear this. I really like it. And then there's my Williamsburg cowl, which has long been a favorite of mine. I think I have 2 or maybe 3 of these, but it just has cables and baubles, and it's just so pretty. I love it. It's lightweight. It's a single skein cowl. It's great for a special skein, not necessarily one that has a lot going on. Like if it has a lot of variegation or speckles, you're going to lose the texture of the cowl because there's a lot of texture in it. But if you had a tonal or a solid, that would be a special skein, you know, one that's like a really cool yarn. That would be great for that pattern. So I went looking on Etsy for some cowls, and I found this shop called Knitted Wishes, and she has a lot of cowls. The first one I picked is Beautiful BC Cowl, and it has this, it's like a color work ombre with the lighter blue at the top, and then there's an off-white background, and then the lighter blue kind of ombres into a darker blue. I'm not sure if those are 2 different skeins of yarn or if she has a skein that kind of ombres, but gosh, wouldn't that be great with like spin cycle or something like that, that it has a lot of transition in it? That would look really cool. And this pattern is only $5.50, and it is a fingering weight pattern. She used Marie Wallen British Breeds, which is 100% British wool, 25 grams. Looks like the skein is only 25 grams. And it is only 2 colors, a main color and a contrast color. So that is a skein that gradients by itself. And she uses more than 1 skein. It looks like 2 skeins of each because it's only 25 grams. So you need about 50 grams of each color. But she has a lot of cowls. Again, the shop is called Knitted Wishes. This pattern is called the Farewell Autumn Cowl Pattern. Again, $5.50. And this is a worsted weight cowl that's just really cute. I would wear that every day of the week and twice on Sunday. It's just so, so cute. So it's worsted weight, but it's knit in a US 6 4mm needle. Is that right? Yeah, that sounds right. And yeah, because 7's 4.5. But that's kind of a small needle for worsted weight, I think. So you're gonna get a nice tight knit cowl. But she has a lot of cute ones. Here's another one called Love Autumn Cowl Pattern. And this is gorgeous. Oh my gosh, it's more color work. This is a fingering weight pattern. And she's using a US 1.5 needle. And she's using Brooklyn Tweed. But anyway, if you go to her shop, she has a lot of really cute cowls, a lot of color work, some that are not color work. I feel like there's, you know, when you think of cowls, there's a couple different things that come to mind. There are those gigantic ones that like looks like something's eating your head. You know, those huge, huge ones that tend to be kind of trendy. I don't really like those because if I'm wearing a cowl, I'm probably wearing a coat or a vest or something. And that's just going to be too large. I like one that's longer, and I like one that is shorter, but not like a turtleneck, you know, not like too tight. I guess the ones that I have knit are the ones that I like. That's why I knit them that way. They work great under a coat, you know, where they're just big enough. I like when they taper. I don't like a straight up and down cowl quite as much because I just don't think it lays as nicely. I like when it has, if it's top down, either increases, or if it's bottom up, then decreases, just so that it has a little bit of a taper. And then it can you can kind of pull it this way and lay it down if you've got a coat on. But that's just me. Okay, moving right along to, so here's what happened. This is from Amy, and this is a really beautiful story. It's a very sad story. It's one that I think a lot of people can relate to, and she sent me some pictures too, and I'll be putting those up as we go. She says, in 1982, I left for college, where I met Laura, a treasured friend for life. I'm from Michigan, and she was from Colorado. Right away, I knew that she was someone special. She had a kindness in her eyes and a gentle nature and always saw the good in everyone. Her mother had died when she was younger, and I believe that experience gave her a maturity and faith that most of us did not have at 18. We were both accounting majors and on the leadership team of our sorority. One year, we stayed for summer school and roomed together, which really solidified our friendship. After college, Laura moved to California and I stayed in Michigan. Prior to her move, another friend, Colleen, and I traveled to Colorado to visit. Laura drove us all around. Laura, Colorado. Oh, maybe Colleen lives in Colorado? I don't know. She loved adventure and was great at planning trips and finding fun things to do. It was the best vacation. A couple years later, I visited her in California. Another amazing vacation. We continued periodic visits over the years. Eventually, she moved back to Colorado, married, and had 2 beautiful daughters. She sent handwritten letters at Christmas and photos of her girls with writing on the back. Liz's first steps, Erin's first horseback ride, I still have all of it. Our lives were very different. We weren't involved in each other's day-to-day. I owned a business and I never had kids. I was somewhat late to marry at 36. Laura and her girls were there to celebrate with me. Distance is hard, but when we saw each other or talked, it was always as if no time had passed. Don't you have friends like that? Whether they are close or far away, and whether you talk some or not often, you're just like forever friends. And when you talk, it's like no time has passed. Amy says, in 2016, she visited and had an opportunity to get to know my husband, who she declared a perfect match for me. I agree. Laura had seen me through some very hard times in my younger years. She helped me find my faith. She was my cheerleader when I felt broken and couldn't cheer for myself. She could not have been happier that I found love. In 2019, my husband and I visited Colorado. Laura and her husband treated us to more adventure and fun, including a drive to Pikes Peak, which turned out to be terrifying for me. I loved it when we arrived at the top, but it turns out I developed an enormous fear of driving/riding in the mountains. That is terrifying. I've done that before too, and it is scary. Laura and I sat in the back seat, which is the worst place for not being terrified. Being in the front, or better yet, in the driver's seat, is the least scary place. I was frantically knitting on my first ranunculus sweater until it no longer calmed me, and I laid down my head in Laura's lap, eyes shut for the remainder of the drive. Scott loved Colorado, and we planned to visit again soon, but then COVID hit in 2020. Laura and I started talking more frequently on the phone. We sent text messages and photos. Laura loved sending special quotes about friendship, and I gifted her a few hand knits. We plan to visit again this summer. On October 7th, 2022, just 3 days after her 59th birthday, Laura was killed in a tragic accident 3 hours after arriving in Ireland for a vacation. I was shocked, and the sense of loss was and still remains overwhelming. As I lay crumpled on the kitchen floor, sobbing, I could see Laura in my mind the first time we met. It was almost as if she were in that kitchen with me, and I was calmed. Colleen, from earlier in the story, and I lived near each other but had drifted apart, always promising to get together soon, but rarely making it happen. We reconnected and 2 weeks later flew to Colorado together for Laura's celebration of life. I think knitters can relate to the effort that goes into packing knitting when traveling. It seems to take me more time to pack my knitting than everything else. I had several whips, but they were all at the wrong point in the process. Too much yarn, too big, required too much thinking or attention. I decided to take something new, something not too difficult, something that could be filled with my grief, something I would surely give away because I wouldn't be able to bear the reminder of the pain I felt while making it. I spent hours thinking about the right project. As I went through all my yarn, I was drawn to a stunning bright kit from La Bien Amy, and I could not get it out of my mind. Not at all what I had planned, but I was drawn to the colors. The yarn was joyful and bright and reminded me of friendship and love. A reminder of the blessing Laura always was and always will be in my life. I decided to knit that shawl and poured into it tears and grief, but also so many happy memories of 40 years of friendship and that beautiful and painful weekend in Colorado with Colleen. The pattern is called a slice of light. That's what it is for me. Light during a dark time. It was almost complete when I tucked it away so I could knit Christmas gifts. I pulled it out on New Year's Eve and finished it, my last FO of the year. What a perfect ending and beginning. A project I thought would fill me with sadness, but actually did the opposite. A shawl I will wear with joy, as Laura would want me to, until we meet again. Over the last few months, I've had moments where I do something that I wouldn't normally do, like share the story, or change my attitude about something, or reach out to someone unexpectedly, or wear a pink ranunculus that I knit in a car on the way to Pikes Peak instead of a black dress to a funeral, or knit something bright when life seems dark. I call them my Laura moments. Her memory seems to guide me toward joy. I believe she's an angel looking out for me. Another Laura moment happened when I suggested to Colleen that we take an annual weekend trip together in honor and memory of Laura. Laura brought us back together. Colleen was thrilled with my request, and our first trip will be this fall back to Colorado. I wonder what I will make this time. Wow. I read this story before, and it's just such a hard story. This is October 2nd, 2022. It's just a few months ago. And I think that's all of our biggest fear, is losing someone suddenly. I think when someone gets sick and you have time to process them going, and they have time to process it, it's a different thing than someone dying suddenly. It's such a terrifying prospect. I was reading this morning in my favorite prayer book, and it was talking about being detached and how, and not specifically to people, it was about more detachment to worldly objects, but also being detached from caring too much about our own health. And I do think, being detached in a sense from everything of this world, because it doesn't belong to us and we don't belong here. Ultimately, God willing, we'll all end up in heaven, and that's our home. Amy, thank you so much for sharing this story. I can't imagine how hard it was to write that. You wrote it and you told it so beautifully. And Laura sounds like an amazing person. And I think she's probably up in heaven, just smiling at your Laura moments. And it's just so beautiful. So thank you so much. If you have a knitting story and you would like to share it with me, send it to Devin at KnittyMcPurly.com. There will not be a podcast next week because I will be at the retreat, but the week after that, hopefully I'll have a really good one with lots of pictures and stories to tell. So, all right, have 2 good weeks, knitters. Bye.